One of the most egregious forms of this, I think we're all agreed, is female genital mutilation. The last report that I know of is that there are about 4,000 cases of this in London, and not a single prosecution. Why?
There have been a prosecution. You should remember that we took a prosecution against a doctor and he was found not guilty. Only the last few weeks we've tried to gain a protection, stop a known cutter entering the country. We failed in getting the protection order, but we are now talking to the Home Office about can we exclude that person. And I understand there's only one prosecution in the country which is in train in Bristol, which has not yet arrived at court. So it's certainly true that at the moment we are struggling to sustain these prosecutions or investigations. Partly it's because the child is the person who will make the complaint and would have to complain often against a parent, even if they're not the cutter, because they've arranged it. So that has proved very problematic. I have to say it's not for the want of trying. We've had multiple investigations, which working very close with CPS, we haven't been able to land. So it's a disappointment for all of us that we haven't got there yet.
The prosecution that you referred to earlier, as I understand it, was actually not strictly speaking for FGM. It was a repairing operation that was done. It was not quite straightforward prosecution in the end. That was the reason it failed.
Yeah, I need a briefing on the detail, but from memory, I think it was about the allegation that there was a restoration of FGM.
Yes.
And that this was carried out by a medically qualified person, which rather removes you would have thought, the defence that it's done without knowledge of the law.
But if I can just press you on this, Commissioner, I mean, you say that it's about the child presenting, what have you, or the girl or the woman presenting, but this is actually specifically a crime against, in the 1985 Act. This is not just it's been covered under another act. This is quite specific. I mean, would you not agree that it's just simply there's something deeply unsatisfactory about saying that this is purely because the girls don't come forward? Does this mean, therefore, that this is going to be a situation going on? I
said it was purely because of that. I said it was a challenge in these investigations. Mm-hmm. And it's not for the want of attention by people like the DPP, heads of CPS, people like myself who've shown a great interest, and we've had investigations, but it has proved really problematic. Now, whether it's a law issue, you could argue, you may be doing, it's a lack of police will, but I do know that we've done three big things. So one, we have investigated where we have complaints. As you know, there's been a huge amount of underreporting by professionals. The health service, schools have not been reporting where they've discovered this issue. Secondly, we've tried to, our broad strategy is to investigate the cutters, either in this country or where children have been taken abroad for it to happen. It's clear it's been done for profit, they're not doing it for free. So this is not only about some of the issues about cultural identity, it's also about the fact that profit's involved. So we've targeted various flights in and out of Heathrow, which you may have seen covertly and overtly. And we have arrested people over time, but haven't been able to land the charges, despite putting some of our best people on it. Now, I'm sure there's always more we can learn, but I think it may be something that we have to consider the law. France has had some success, but not massive, given the population affected by this is probably 3 times the size of our population here. But they have had some success, and one of the differences in their law, I believe, is that they can require a medical examination, which in our law we cannot. Now, I'm not making that the excuse, because I would always accept we might need to do more. But certainly personally, and we collectively put a huge amount of effort, but we haven't got there yet, you're right.
I accept obviously what you say about putting the effort in. I mean, obviously something isn't working because, not to have any successful prosecutions for something so heinous as this is extraordinary. I mean, I wonder whether you could comment. I wonder whether, in fact, there is also something institutional, if you like. Perhaps there's an over-cultural sensitivity at work here in your force.
I don't accept that at all, either personally or collectively, because I've certainly got involved personally with some of the campaign groups. So I honestly don't accept that. There's no sensitive to me. If they're going to commit a crime, they're going to get locked up. What I think one of the things we're challenged about, and I've talked to campaign groups about this, there's a little research 2 weeks ago. Some members of the community are aware of the cutters because they have to go and arrange them to cut. But we're not getting intelligence about those cutters. People must know that. And even the campaign groups who've told me well, you know who the cutters are. The answer is we don't until someone tells us. So when are they going to tell us? So I think if there be cultural sensitivities, I'd argue on the whole it's not that the police are not looking to investigate and CPS are not looking to charge. I'm afraid we're having real difficulties in these cases.
I wonder, sorry, if you can indulge me actually, Mr. Chairman, I wonder whether you could therefore just comment on a case that was reported recently of somebody who worked at Scotland Yard, Javaria Said, who has now left your force, but basically she was told by a fellow officer that FGM was a clean and honourable practice, quote, and shouldn't be criminalised. Now that was someone on the force who then wasn't actually disciplined. Do you know about this case?
I don't know the detail of that now.
Right, well, she was pretty horrified that in fact her feeling was that in fact there was a kind of political correctness at work here, that basically people who had said that sort of thing were not being actually disciplined in a way that other officers might be. And I've got sort of issues such as what happened in Rotherham here in my mind as well, you know. So are you saying that there is absolutely no hint in your force of people basically being concerned about appearing racist or concerned about being culturally insensitive?
I can't guarantee the possibility it doesn't exist, but I couldn't be clearer myself. And if you've seen any of my public descriptions of this, I've made very clear it's wrong, we'll investigate it, and I would like to get people charged with what, as you've described, is a heinous offence.